My name is Smiling Observer. I had a big deal planned for Halloween, but that did not work out. My theatrics seemed proper in my mind, but I would have needed an additional set of hands to help me pull that off. And unfortunately, the only other ASMR artists and ASMR enthusiasts I know are you guys. None in real life. Well, not real life, but none that I've met here. So, I've decided to just stick to what works. Something you can clearly understand. Something for you to think about. Something that's relaxing for you. Unfortunately, this will be the very last time I do a scary Reddit reading. And that's all due to the fact that I'm tired of scaring myself half to death, jumping at shadows and flinching at every sound that I hear in this house that hasn't completely settled, not allowing myself to believe that it could be something otherworldly. So, with that, I shall continue with this final scary Reddit reading. This one time at band camp, a girl brought her authentic Ouija board made out of maple straight from Salem. Ironically, she was very Catholic, but loved her board. And was a very interesting few nights in the dorm with it. I think the second night we were playing with it, and it was going slow. Not much movement, meh. I had my hand off the planchette because I still wasn't so sure about the thing. Suddenly, it was like cold fingers grabbed into my shoulders ever so slightly. And this terrible feeling in the back of my mind just came to the surface. I looked at the board, and the planchette started moving in a demonic pattern. I think figure eights this time. I looked at the girl and said, I have a bad feeling about that. In time for her to realize what was happening, she stopped the movement and bid the spirit goodbye. In that moment, the icy grip loosened and all was well. Everyone was like, whoa, when the girl explained that the figure eight meant that something was trying to get out of the board. This is common lore that goes with Ouija usage. At a later time, we were playing in someone else's room when we asked for the name of whoever we were talking to. Zelda, something came through. talking to her, we found that she was a young widow whose husband died in a war. She died at age 80. I remembered the name, and a few years later, on a trip to Salem where the board was made, we went past some old houses with the historical plaques that said the original owners and year they were built. On one of those houses was the name Z. annnnnnnd. I lost it. I got all excited, etc. That was really cool, and I won't forget that coincidence. This story comes from Redditor C. Scott 30. Well, I never thought I would post this here, but here it goes. My mother and father moved into an apartment in Clarksville, Tennessee, about a year after I was born. And my mother was really big into the spirit world and used the Ouija board fairly regularly. A few months after living in the apartment, apparently she had an experience with it and locked the board up in a closet and didn't even look at it or touch it ever again. She then started having experiences with the spirit that would talk to her in her dreams. The spirit's main motivation was to take me, about 18 months old, for himself. My mom says he looked like a well-dressed gentleman from around the 1800s. Top hat included. It was really long and gaunt, though. Then several strange things happened to me, with a lot of near-death experiences on my part. My head getting stuck into part of the crib I couldn't reach and slowly suffocating. My crib becoming unlocked and me almost rolling out. My mom woke from a dream of the man telling her he was taking me each time and ran into my room to check on me and ended up saving me. In these dreams, the man would be in the rocking chair in my room holding me and rocking with a loving look on his face at me. But when he would see my mother, his face would take on a darker appearance and all that. The strangest thing is, when my mother would rush into the room, the rocking chair would be moving and suddenly stop when she would slam the door open. We eventually moved out of that apartment and to Germany because of my father's job. We returned to Clarksville a few years later, and I found a Ouija board and started to play around with it. When my mother walked in the room saying she had a bad feeling and told me to quit playing with it and explain all this to me. She told me all about the experiences and how our apartment had a tree that had been used for hangings in the early days of Tennessee. My whole life, I've had these strange feelings from time to time, like someone is around me, but I try and ignore them as best I can, for fear that he is still trying to take me. I do know I don't particularly care for Ouija boards anymore, and the one my mother had is locked in the closet to this day. I just had a bad feeling of unease around them, like someone really wants to talk to me. I've in fact ever used one once with a group of friends in high school near the apartments I used to live in as a child. The The only thing that was spelled out before we quit was hello. Miss me, my child. Needless to say, I freaked out. This next story comes from Rockin' Robin, and I apologize. I try to do these readings without coughing and without trying to clear my throat, but it seems like every time I try to read, my throat gets all congested and I'm trying to be quiet. But I guess that just comes with using my voice, and my throat and everything is moving. So it moves mucus around or whatever, however it works. But I'm going to continue, and I'm going to try to clear my throat more quietly. Maybe I can turn the gain down on this microphone. Is that better? I'm going to go ahead and assume that that's better. Okay, this next story comes from Rockin' Robin. I have one. My friend and I have an old school Ouija board. We're big into spirits, and we used to like to dabble into things we really shouldn't mess with, like Ouija boards near old time-worn cemeteries. Tarot cards without really probably knowing how to read them, etc. One night, in particular, me, my best friend, and a few other friends were crowded inside a van. One of my friends had a utility van with the insides gutted out that he liked to call Delilah, the party van, or something. Anyway, it was raining out, and we were parked in my driveway. I live out in the middle of nowhere in a rural country town. We have a large plot of land, so we have a street light in the front yard to light up most of the property. My driveway is asphalt, and it's a good ways from the house. We didn't want to get out in the rain just yet, so we snuggled around the tiny space, and since we had the Ouija board with us for some reason, we decided to break it out, and my best friend and I were going to show them how it was done. We started to communicate with a male spirit who was telling us that he had been involved on the wrong side of a love triangle with his lady friend, and she was playing him and seeing another guy or something along the lines of that. The details were a little fuzzy. My friend was asking a question when all of a sudden she stopped talking and choked like she was choking back a sob. Quizzically, I looked over at her to see tears start rolling down her cheeks. She looked up at me as baffled as I was, but she looked horribly sad. I was freaked out, and without taking my hands off the pointer, asked her what was wrong. She sniffled and said she had no idea, but she suddenly got very heavy and felt an immense sadness, like something had passed through her and left her. I got protective and snarled out something like, "You're not allowed to communicate with us in such a personal manner. Please stick to using a pointer and don't go beyond our boundaries again." No sooner than I mouthed off, the rain outside got stronger, and since I had a good view of my property from the van window, I happened to look out the window right as thunder clapped, and a streak of lightning collided with the street of stories from them. This was just the one that's sticking out in my head. I've had psychics tell me that they don't want me in their house, or that my aura is black, or there is some sort of barrier around my spiritual sense. I've had my own animals freak out at me when my friend and I would get back from exploring old cemeteries late at night. We've recorded weird growling noises in a duplex we used to live at, and also whispering taunts from a few Ouija sessions. It's been a good long while since we played with the Ouija board, but we haven't gotten rid of it yet, so there's always a possibility. This next story comes from the gate cleaner. Well, Ouija board stories? When I was about 14, my best friend had a sleepover party, birthday party. Being the silly little girls we were, we decided to make a Ouija board and use, not really knowing any of the rules, like making it say goodbye. After an hour or so, I wandered off to read some tarot cards and watch the rest of The Exorcist with the other couple of girls who didn't want to commune with spirits. Rereading that last sentence, I sound much more like I sound like such a stereotype. I still use tarot cards though, so I never grew out of this phase, it seems. Here's where it got weird. After I left the spirit, talking to my friends changed. As in, it switched to a different spirit altogether. His name was Max, and he was looking for me. I've never known a Max in my life. My friends yelled out what he was saying as it moved, and it was riding off as them teasing me until he started giving them information about me that no one at the party knew. Things about minor abuse I was facing and other little things. That freaked me right out. I begged for them to stop playing, even after Max tried to convince me that he was not trying to hurt me. My friends were awesome and stopped playing before I started crying, and I thought that was the end of it. The next time a Ouija board came out was the next year, and only one girl from the original party was among the group. We were baking a cake, so when the buzzer went off, she and I headed up to take it out of the oven. When we got back to the group, another girl turned to me and asked, "Who's Max?" Apparently, he stuck around after that the first time. If my friends want to use a Ouija board, they don't invite me over unless they want to speak to Max. He's always around. A few times in my life, I've heard a voice call out my name. It actually makes me stop for a minute, no more. But at least twice, and I not stopped, I would have been in the path of a car, going too fast to stop before it would have hit me. I strongly believe Max stuck around to be helpful, but had we not pulled out that Ouija board, I would not have never known about him. Wow. This next story comes from Scoozy. I grew up in a small coastal town. One of my friend's uncles owned a house that had belonged to one of my town's original inhabitants. The house was, to say the least, old. There was paint peeling everywhere, cobwebs and antique furniture. It was hard to believe that people actually lived in it. I went over with two friends. We were sitting in the living room right next to the fireplace and broke out the Ouija board. We were all very patient and saw some movement, but for a couple of minutes we hadn't seen anything. I was staring at the board when I noticed that the window of the planchette seemed to be over the H and the I. I sort of laughed. It looks as if it was saying hi. All of a sudden it started moving fairly quickly. We kept hearing noises in the fireplace, whereas before it had been completely silent. The more questions we asked, the louder the sounds in the fireplace got. They sounded like tapping on the glass doors covering it. We could hear the bricks sort of whining. We established we were talking to a young male child. I don't remember what we asked, but I think we asked if there were others. We all saw the doors to the fireplace push open at this point, opening and straining against the clasp in front before closing again. My friends ran from the room, and I dragged the planchette to goodbye and followed after them. This next story comes from Ouija. I was on the phone talking to my girlfriend, probably 14 at the time, and she was playing with a Ouija board. She was telling me she was communicating with this guy's spirit who had died in a car crash. Yeah, I said. So I hear this swearing sound over the phone. I inquire, and she says, the pointer is going around and around really fast. It usually means the spirit is angry. She asks the spirit, why is he mad? And he yells, and he spells, boyfriend. She denies being my boyfriend. Apparently the spirit has a crush on her, which she had discovered during her little talk with him. So I'm here, sitting on my couch, randomly flipping through channels. I tell her I don't see why he plays with dumb stuff like that. I hear the swearing again, and she asks again why the spirit is mad. And she gets the same response, boyfriend. She tells the spirit again that she's single, which is followed by the spelling lie. She asks, how do you know? So she starts reading the letters from the board. Gloscow. Babe, what does Glasgow mean? I don't know, I reply. I'm sitting here listening over the phone to this. I've happened to stop the channel on Wheel of Fortune. It's the bonus round, and the guy is just starting to reveal the answer. Glasgow. I think I sat there staring blankly at the screen, wondering if they were watching TV at the same time, to try and explain how she came up with this word. My girlfriend lived out of the city at the time. Her family didn't have cable TV. That night, as I slept in bed, I rolled over and turned, looking at my closet. I started to see this bright light, flashing light, turning on and off. Mind you, my friends and I used to steal these yellow flashing lights from the construction zones near our house. And the only way to turn the lights off was to physically remove the lid from the battery enclosure. I had this thing completely disconnected, sitting in my shelf, and it started flashing in the dead of the night. I ended up just pulling the covers over my head and falling asleep. Craziest thing to ever happen to me. This next story comes from Hate the Jess. Did your lady talk to it after that? Okay, These are responses to the last story I just read. Hate to just ask, did your lady talk to it after that night? Haija said, I tried to explain what happened to me. She basically laughed it off like it was normal. I stopped dating her soon after. It was just too weird for me. I'm not to believe in paranormal activity or the afterlife, but this experience definitely had me curious. Ronin Tetsuro asks, wait, she was using a board by herself? Is that what you're trying to say? Glitch Lord 21 post an ancestry link. Glasgow Family History UK .askx. Starler 29. This next story comes from her. We used homemade ones a few times with a friend that was way more into the supernatural. One night we were sitting on my bed in the basement and asking the spirit questions and asked if it was with us, and it said yes. And there was a spot on the bed between me and my friend that was absolutely icy cold, and if you passed your hand through it, it felt electric. Anyone who put their hand through that relatively small area felt this intensely cold, burning sensation. Pretty weird. I couldn't come up for any rational explanation for it. It's not like the AC was on, blowing cold air on that spot or anything. Kinyuman 93 says, my weekend just started. I'm going out of town with a few friends tonight. We're bringing the board with us. I'm going to try to break this thing. I'm leaving at 9 tonight. Before then, do you guys have any suggestions about destroying a Ouija board? I screwed myself when I took it out of my parents' house, and I need to get rid of this no matter what. Kinyuman. I was using a Ouija board once at my parents' house. My friend spent the night, and he was terrified of it. At first, I was just playing with the board. I'd ask a question about my friend to the ghost, and then answer it with something freaky. Do you like my friend? No? Why? I wish he was dead. This went on for 5 minutes. My friend was freaked out. He went to the bathroom, leaving me alone in the board. I held the pointer down and moved it around, just having fun. The pointer started to move to certain letters. I didn't even realize it. It was repeating itself over and over again. Liar. This freaked me out. I wanted to let go but couldn't. You lied to him. Apologize. He came back seeing me and thought I was messing with him. I didn't apologize. I just stared at the board. Apologize now. I looked at him and asked for help. He started to back away. I yelled for him to help me. The board continued to apologize. I had to. I apologized like 5 times. It let go, and I stopped. I've tried to get rid of the board, but it won't leave. My house still has a strange presence that only appears when I visit. My mom and dad say it usually disappears, but when I come over, it paces up the stairs, slams doors, and follows me. It never follows me outside of the house, though. Inconspicuously here. Says, so you were messing with him at first, moving the pointer, and then when he left it, was working for real? I'm a tad confused as to why the spirit was angry at you for calling you a liar. Kinyuman says, it didn't like me lying to him, I guess. He was really freaked out. Maybe it thought I was mocking it or didn't like me playing with it. It's still pissed. I only visit for Christmas. I stay 2 nights a year, and each night I hear it pace. It hates me. And conspicuously here says, and this is the reason I don't blank with spirits. My aunt played with the Ouija board when she was younger, and I think something follows her now, or at least stays in her house. I house it for her quite often, and every time something happens, whether it's lights turning on and off, doors being open when I specifically remember closing them, and things being moved when I turn my back. Nothing malevolent, just messing with me. She doesn't like to talk about it. Braced polecat. I remember my friend and I made our own Ouija board from college ruled paper. At school, we played with it, and I got 5 spirits to communicate. We then continued to communicate at tennis court and found something disturbing. At first we thought it was static, garbled mess of letters meaning nothing, but we realized it looked too formal or too neat to be random. D, da, ni. So D and ga, love, ko, D, U. What? I was Cherokee. We later found out that that was a phonetic form. Sounding out was translated to order, holy, and burial, which translated in order, holy, and burial. We got this chilling feeling as if we were being watched from the woods, and we didn't feel safe at all. We folded the paper, saturated it in salt, wrapped it in a plastic bag, climbed down in the sewers and buried it in there. We did some research later and found out everything, including a mass grave that was found during the construction of our school, Chancellor High, Fredericksburg, Virginia, USA. Wow. Months and also years later, we heard unexplained noises and sounds coming from the sewers, not going in again, nor messing with our Ouija board. I heart semicolon. Vote for Fredericksburg. Okay. Brace Polecat says, yeah, Fredericksburg is completely filled with haunted areas, it being a battlefield of the Civil War and all. I saw an apparition in broad daylight over at the bridge in downtown Historic that connects with Stafford. It walked across the entire bridge. I confirmed it. It was real with my friend who was there at the time. I heard semicolon says, I live directly across from Fredericksburg battlefield. Just walking, running, or biking. Lee Drive gives me the chills. Brace Polecat says, holy cow, I remember biking down there too. Also, I did record some EVPs there too. Found a voice responding to my friend's stepdad. Who are you talking to? Jim replied without knowing, just talking with Marie. Well, boys and girls, it appears like that is all the scary, creepy, Reddit Ouija board readings that I have. So, that is it. And so lies the very last scary Reddit reading feel like the scary readings are boxing me in artistically. I believe that there is so much more that I can do as far as ASMR is concerned that transcend just reading creepy, scary stories. So, this is why I've decided to make this it final, complete, done. Because I want to move on to other creative things. I've already recorded the first episode of my podcast with my friend. And I've yet to upload that and start the channel and our other social media accounts. So, I still want to do that. But my time has been just mired down with work or other things. And I don't know if how many of you watched the hangout with on Fat Free Pudding's channel. Maria agreed to come and hang out with us, the Outlaws, the ASMR Outlaws, and she kept her word. She was there, and it was wonderful getting to meet her. I wish I could have spent more time talking with her and talking with the other Outlaws, but I didn't have time to stick around. I didn't have time to do anything else because I had to go to work. And usually I miss these hangouts, but I wasn't going to miss this one because Maria was in it. And if I only get to chat with her for like 5 minutes, that would have been good for me. So, I got that. I got to chat with her for 5 minutes, or so. So, that being the case, that is that. And so, this being the case, I hope you guys enjoy your Halloween. Keep it scary, but not too scary. Don't go overboard. And definitely don't go overboard on the candy. I look forward to doing, making more videos and whatnot. I want to do some things that's more creative, but I'm limited on props and what such the like, and on an understanding of editing videos. That's one of my major problems. But well, I guess we'll see you guys on the other side of Halloween, and enjoy your night. Be safe. Have fun. Be scared. Be creepy. Be relaxed. Be chill. But be careful, because there are things in this world, despite your religious affiliation, if any religious affiliation at all, that are real, and we should be vigilant and not let them dominate our lives. Okay, you guys have a wonderful and happy Halloween. This is Smiling Observer.